In today's video, we will be completing a lot of quests and we will be taking a huge step towards Dragon Slayer, and soon we will be able to get into members. And in Best Alien Food style, I will be completing a quest unguided, which proved to be very difficult and much more difficult than I had expected. So thank you very much for watching and enjoy. In BlindManMode, I will be trying to obtain the Old School Runescape quest cape while playing in almost complete blindness. But you will be able to follow along from above and see everything that happens all around me. While this is what my perspective will look like. So welcome to BlindManMode. So the first quest that I will be completing today is the Sheep Shearer quest, which doesn't have a lot of difficulties even playing blindly. It is fairly annoying having to shear the sheep in the darkness, but you only need 20 sheep, so it's not that bad. And after handing back in the balls of wool, that is Sheep Shearer completed. 1 quest point, a few crafting XP and a few coins. So not the best reward, but a very easy quest. And afterwards, while already being in Lumbridge, I figured that I would also start the Rune Mysteries quest, which is once again a very simple quest with a lot of dialogue and walking back and forth between different places. So if you have made it this far into the series already, you can probably imagine that it is very annoying to walk back and forth in the dark, but I will spare you all of the walking and skip directly to the reward. And 1 quest point and some nice to haves if I want to train runecrafting at some point, but once again not the most exciting reward. And for the third quest of the video, I will be doing Shield of Arrav, which is one of only 2 quests in Old School Runescape that requires you to do it with another player. And I did consider completing it with an alt, as that is way easier than finding a random player. But I figured that I would go for the true Old School Runescape experience and find someone to do it with through the CC. So while still doing the first steps that I needed to do alone and looking for the Phoenix headquarters, I was lucky enough to run right into an imp. But that was also where my luck ended, as the imp, before I even had a chance to attack it once, managed to teleport into this weird corner in this little hut that I had no way of getting into. So after trying to walk away for a little bit and come back attacking the imp and maybe hoping that it would teleport just as I was walking towards it and therefore I would be dragged automatically after the imp if it teleported, I had to give up, as I had no idea how long an imp might actually stay in place if it hadn't been attacked without teleporting. So I went back to where I had left off, searching for the Phoenix hideout, which I actually had no idea exactly where were located. And while still searching for the Phoenix hideout, I actually managed to find 2 imps in what must be a true imp hotspot in the southern part of Varrock. Or maybe it just shows that the tornado mouse strategy works so badly that when I'm not even looking for imps, I have more luck finding them. But with now 4 imps in total killed on the account, we still have no luck regarding getting our first beat. And would you believe that after killing Johnny the Beard and returning to the Phoenix hideout, there actually was another imp waiting for me sitting in front of the ladder, which marks the 3rd imp kill in this video, but once again no luck. And with the help of Pukey, I'm sorry if that's not how the name is pronounced, that I met in the Shield of Arrows CC, I did manage to complete the quest, which rewarded 1 quest point and 600 gold. And after Shield of Arrav, I wanted to complete Doric's quest, which also is a very quick quest, but it does have a requirement of 15 mining, as I will need to mine 2 iron ores. And while training towards level 15 mining, I did manage to get my 2nd beginner clue scroll of the account. And incredibly enough, I actually got the clue step, which were in the exact same mine where I was already training mining. Unfortunately, I didn't have a spade on me, so I figured I would finish the inventory and come back with a spade. And after grabbing a spade and trying to line up my position next to one of the ores, I actually did manage to dig in the correct spot on the first attempt. And for the next step, which is somehow also in Varrock, I will need a gold ring and a gold necklace. I already have 2 gold rings in the bank, and I will find a way to get a gold necklace before the end of this episode, so we will hopefully also get a beginner clue casket. And while training some more mining, I also got this pinball event. And for some very strange reason, inside of the pinball event there apparently is a very high brightness. So I could actually just play the pinball event as I would play on a normal account, where I would just zoom out and I could click on exactly the pinball that I needed to go to. So let me skip to the ending of the pinball event and I will show you exactly how the brightness changes when I get back to Gilnor. So as you can see here, there was a very big difference between the brightness inside of the pinball minigame and the darkness in which I normally play out here. And even more weirdly, here is a screenshot of one of the first frames after getting back to Gillinor, where the brightness is actually still applied to the game while I'm next to the ores that I was mining. And after having reached 15 mining and collected the ores necessary, I was ready to complete the Dorish quest as well. And with the amazing reward of 1 quest point, 1300 mining XP and 180 gold, I did reach level 19 mining, which is very nice and one of the very nice free to play quest rewards. And while walking towards the Corsair Curse quest start, which is north of Porta Rim, I figured I would see if I couldn't find an imp in the famous imp hotspot. And in what turns out to be a video actually full of imp kills, I did manage to find another imp and kill it, but once again no luck on getting the beads. So after starting the quest, it was time to make my way to Remington, where I took the boat to the Corsair Cove. And let me tell you this right now, the Corsair Curse quest is a quest that I have only done once on my main a very long time ago, and I don't remember anything from that quest. Apart from that, somewhere near the end of the quest there is a boss fight. So I filled up my inventory with trouts and put on my best combat gear with my new steel plate body in case that the fight would turn out to be difficult. And the boss fight did turn out to be very difficult, and if anyone has done the quest recently, you might know that the boss actually attacks with mage, so all my armor didn't really help me that much. And as someone who is a big fan of alien food and his unguided series, I figured that since I didn't know this quest very well, I would take advantage and try and do the quest as far as possible without using any guides. The only thing that I did look up before starting was that the quest required a spade and a tinderbox, as I figured that most of it would take place in the Corsair Cove, which is very far away from any banks. And it does take me a very long time to make my way back and forth through RuneScape on this account, so I really didn't want to have to go back to find some items that I didn't know that I needed. And here on the screen right now we have what definitely is the most weird cutscene that I remember having ever seen in Old School Runescape, and I honestly don't know what is going on. I cannot believe that I don't remember this cutscene from doing the quest the first time. But that seems like the perfect way to dive in with Mr. BlindQuest to the plotline of this very weird quest. So the footage that rolled in the first part while I was talking was of me walking back and forth in the city looking for 4 crew members of the crew of the captain who took me to the Corsair Cove. The captain had told Mr. BlindQuest that the 4 cabin members had been cursed, and it was Mr. BlindQuest's job to figure out why they had been cursed and how to get rid of the curse. And after talking to each one, Mr. BlindQuest was told that each one had his own theory about why the curse was being cast on these crew members. And getting back into the story with Mr. BlindQuest right now, he is searching for a cave which would have some augurs, as one of the 4 crew members had stolen some kind of rare relic from the ogres and thought that maybe for that reason an ogre shaman or something like that would have cast a curse on the crew members. And after searching for the cave for well over 10 minutes, Mr. BlindQuest did finally find it. And while inside, Mr. BlindQuest was told by one of the ogres that what the crew member thought was a rare relic was actually just a toothpick, and that the shamans would definitely not have cast any curses because of that toothpick being stolen. So instead, Mr. BlindQuest wanted to see if the other theories were correct, and he had also remembered that one of the crew members said that he had buried some kind of a doll somewhere in the sand on the island. And Mr. BlindQuest was very worried about this doll, as the only thing he had been told was that it was buried next to a tree, but it was a huge island full of sand, so there must be a ton of trees and a ton of spaces where he could find the doll potentially. And after digging all around every single tree that he found on the beach that had sand beneath it, he finally found something that looked a little bit weird in the sand, and he digged there, and luckily that was where the doll had been buried. And after this incredible cutscene of an ogre swimming through the lens of a telescope, Mr. BlindQuest had disproven all 3 theories, as the third theory was that someone had made a mermaid angry who had put the curse on the crew. But since there was no mermaid and it was an ogre, Mr. BlindQuest knew that all 3 theories were wrong. And I really gotta say that this quest was so difficult and so frustrating to do unguided while also playing blindly, as it had a ton of walking back and forth and talking to all the different crew members. And most of these clips are in either ×8 or ×16 speed, so I really did spend a ton of time walking back and forth and trying to figure out what I needed to do next. Like for example right here, all the quest guide says in game is that I had ruled out all the Corsair's theories about how they had become cursed, and they don't tell me anything more about what I need to do, so I had to walk back and forth between all of the different NPCs from the quest, trying to figure out exactly what I needed to do next. And after having ruled out all of the theories from the crew members, Mr. BlindQuest figured out that they had all eaten a dinner together right before they all got sick, so they figured that it might have been something to do with the food. And this is where Mr. BlindQuest started to suspect that it might have something to do with the navigator, whom I haven't talked about yet. As I said that there were 4 theories, the 4th one was from the navigator, who didn't really have a theory, but he just figured that everyone had been cursed for whatever reason. But the navigator wasn't at dinner that night that they all got sick, but he was sick as well, so if it had something to do with the food, it was weird that he was sick as well. But he did, however, help prepare the food, and he never did that, said the other crew members. But Mr. BlindQuest finds out that the navigator was about to be fired from the crew, and after talking to the navigator himself, he actually admits to Mr. BlindQuest that he faked the whole illness, but no one would believe Mr. BlindQuest. And after having been stuck for a while, I got very lucky that I had decided to read the required items on the wiki, as I found out that I would need a tinderbox at some point. And beneath the navigator's house I had seen some weird dry wood. So I did need to set fire to the dry driftwood in order to lure the navigator out of his hut. And I am honestly not sure how I ever would have figured this out if I hadn't brought the required items before and knew that I would need a tinderbox for something. So now all that I had left to do was to find the navigator in his hut and kill him. And I will speed this boss fight up 16 times, as this was so far the longest boss fight of the entire account. And after trying everything that I possibly could to get an advantage, as prayer flicking all of the 3 possible prayers that I had that might help me, I was very close to finally killing the navigator. And with also only a few trouts left, it was very obvious that this fight would go down to the wire. And with the navigator down to a measly 5 HP and me down to a single trout, I just couldn't seem to get the hits that I needed. And after a very long and very painful and very stressful fight, the navigator pulls one final rabbit out of the hat and hits me with a devastating 6 and knocks me out with still 1 trout remaining and him only being on 5 HP. But Mr. BlindQuest, not being one to give up, was ready to prepare and come back even stronger. And since the navigator was using only magic, the only logical thing to do was to gear up in some good range armor that had a very good defense against magic. But shockingly enough, the 2 shops in Barracks selling range gear didn't have any range armor that could be used at level 1 range. But luckily enough, Mr. BlindQuest had gotten a leather body from his first beginner clue, so he put that on and hoped that it would be enough. So having learned from his previous mistakes and back for another round, Mr. BlindQuest would surely kill the navigator this time, I'm sure. And after having come off to a very good start and the navigator very quickly dropping in health, it looked like this would be easy peasy for Mr. BlindQuest. But this is where things started to go downhill again, and the navigator would pull back the fight to something that would be very close once again. But with the navigator down on 7 HP and Mr. BlindQuest on 6 trout, there's no way that this could go wrong, right? But after a huge fumble from Mr. BlindQuest, he got hit by another 6 and got knocked out once again, and he would need to hope that 3rd time was indeed the charm. So jumping right back into our 3rd fight against the navigator, you can now imagine some of the troubles that I might come by on this series. As you can see, the trouble that Igai the navigator from the Corsair Curse is actually causing me. But as you can probably see right now on the screen, there is no way that this could go wrong this time, as I have a lot of food left and the navigator is turning out to be very low very quickly. And while trying my best to not get KO'd by another 6, I figured that I would show the whole world my incredible prayer flicking skills. And with a clip that might go down in history as one of the greatest old school RuneScape accomplishments in PvM of all time, I finally did manage to defeat the navigator. And all that I had left to do was to return to the captain for my reward. And with the Corsair Curse completed, we only have 4 quests remaining before we can start the Dragon Slayer quest. And with a very disappointing reward compared to how much effort I put into the quest, it only gives 2 quest points and access to the bank in the Corsair Cove. So after the 3 fights against the navigator, I figured that I will probably be needing a ton of food down the line, so I started doing a lot of fishing and I got this Bob random event. But it really wasn't worth it, as I had to do a lot of running around both to find the fishing spot and the fishing net, as I couldn't see anything from the cutscene on where to fish. So for 600 and something fishing XP, it really wasn't worth it. And while still fishing, I also got my very first beekeeper event, which gave me beekeeper boots and a lamp, and this random event is very nice now that it starts giving lamps as well, and with the lamp I got level 13 prayer. And I will probably be using all of my XP lamps in prayer for a very long time, as prayer will be very useful, as I will be going through a ton of different areas, and the higher prayer level I have, the more prayer points I have, and the more prayer points prayer potions will give me, and I will need a lot of protection against aggressive NPCs. So making my way towards the wilderness where we will be going next, I got my first school random event as well, and once again I used the lamp on prayer and got level 14 prayer. And the reason that I'm going towards the wilderness is that I want the gold necklace to complete the beginner clue that we got mining. And in free to play there only are 3 spawns for the gold necklace and no shops that sells it. And 2 of them need telekinetic grab, and since I promised that I will be completing the clue in this episode, I will be going for the faster route, hopefully the faster route where I don't need to train magic first, which is in the lava maze in the wilderness. So after having made my way to Edgewill and crossed the wilderness ditch, it was time to make my way into the wilderness for the very first time on this account. And I will be showing this entire wilderness trip in time 16 speed, so you can probably get the idea that it did end up taking quite a while. And as always on this account, I don't look up exactly where an item can be found if I don't know it. So I had seen that the gold necklace could be found in the lava maze, but not exactly where. And I think that it is a lot more fun for this account if I don't look up the exact position, because I could look up exactly where it is and how to get there, and then it wouldn't be that difficult. But one of the difficulties on this account is that I will have to play in the darkness, and I'll have to try and figure out how to complete all of these different challenges that I face without too much preparation. And after finally having made my way into the lava maze and almost lost my cameraman a few times, I figured that I would use the classic maze strategy that if you hug one of the walls, you will always end up coming out of the maze at the other end. And luckily for me, always hugging the lava to the left of me brought me right over the gold necklace, so it wasn't too difficult to find. I was fearing that the gold necklace would be in the middle of one of the bigger lava islands, and then I would have no idea how to find the gold necklace, as I had no idea where it was located, but I got lucky this time and made my way back out of the wilderness without dying. And with a 2-step beginner clue, we got our second beginner casket on the account. And I will open this casket with live commentary along with you guys, so let's see what we get. Okay, an orc shortbow and 5 sardines. That's not the best reward. I spent a lot more fish trying to get the gold necklace, but we can't get lucky every time. And another thing that I want to get moving along, as we don't have any more boss fights I think before Dragon Slayer, so now it doesn't matter that much if we reach a higher combat level, is the Hill Giant grind, where I will need the giant key, which is 128, as I probably will be killing them outside of the wilderness, but we'll see. And here on the screen you can see some of the useful drops that we might get lucky and pick up along the way along with the giant key. For example, there is an iron kite shield, which will be a new best in slot shield. There are some very nice rune drops, for example law runes, which will allow me to teleport once I get the magic levels, or cosmic runes and nature runes, which might be very hard to obtain. And then they do drop a lot of coins as well, and I spent a lot of my coins on feathers for fishing, so any coins drop will be very nice as well, as I don't really have any way of making money yet. So while killing some hill giants here in the background, let's have a little chat about the account and what I'm thinking will be the next steps. So now I'm back at the hill giants once again, after the last trip was a huge failure in the last video, but this time we will be using normal food, which isn't wine, so hopefully it will be a lot easier now that our attack level won't be 1 or 0. So now that we are very close to Dragon Slayer 1, let's talk a little bit about what I'm planning to do while we are killing these hill giants in the background sped up. I am really not the level, as you can probably tell, to kill hill giants efficiently. It would be way more efficient to train a little bit higher on something like chickens, but since I don't want to get a too high combat level before Dragon Slayer 1, I will be starting out now and taking advantage of every single XP in hope that I will get one of the keys. And it's really not smooth sailing yet, as here I am trying to find the ladder, as I got completely turned around and I had no idea where I was in the room. So while completing the last quest, I will be killing some hill giants here and there when I'm not in the mood for doing a quest, but I want to get a little playtime in. And I'm really not sure how difficult Dragon Slayer will be. It has a combat recommendation of 45, so I will most definitely be stopping before hitting 45. But I'm not sure yet at what combat level I will be trying it out, but we'll see. But I promise you that we are very close to getting to Dragon Slayer and getting into the very interesting and very exciting members content, which will be a lot more exciting and a lot different than the free-to-play has been so far. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and if you liked this video, please think about liking and subscribing, as it really does help the channel. I will see you back with the next video very soon.